Welcome to episode 131 of the Hard Truth About B2B e-commerce. I'm your co-host Isaiah Bollinger, and I'm back with Tim on a slightly cold day. I don't know about you, but it's starting to get winter
Yeah, it
here.
feels a little more fall-like where I am in New York, so that's not a bad thing. I don't mind seeing the leaves turning and a little bit of coolness. We've had a lot of heat. I was wearing shorts, I think, in our last podcast, like only a
We
week
we
ago.
had these like 80-degree days, and I was like sweating because I was wearing, I think I wore this one of those days because like, oh, it's fall. And I was in the office just like sweating.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's good to see everyone again. Welcome to our episode today. Tim Peterson here, your co-host, and I just want to give a couple shout outs. People know that we have this tradition. I ask everyone to reach out and tell us what they think of the podcast, and usually people just reach out when they like it, which is nice. So that's a good thing. I'm going to mention a couple people: Andy Stevenson, Joshua Tippergan, who's listened to many podcasts. Betsy Emery Martin, again, who I've mentioned before. Cynthia Guang, she used to head up a PR agency and now does something much more digital. She also is a listener to our podcast. I'm very happy to hear that. She's out in Santa Monica and has a lot of California connections in the community. And also, one other name flitted in and out of my head, Chris Timmis. I want to mention him again. He is a dedicated listener. So, hello to everybody. Thank you. Reach out again. And now I'm just going to pause for a moment to insert our sponsor mentions, and then I'm going to throw it back to Isaiah to introduce our guest. Balance is a B2B e-commerce payment solution that works well for you and for your buyers. It offers a seamless one-click checkout for almost any payment method, including ACH, wire, checks, cards, even terms. It's used by leaders in B2B e-commerce, and it's as easy as buying a shirt from Amazon. Check them out at getbalance.com. Book a session and tell them what your needs are. They are the first dedicated payment platform for B2B e-commerce, 100% tailored to your needs. Thanks again to our sponsor, Balance. Isaiah, please introduce our guest today.
Yeah, super excited to have Dwayne Doshier, I think we've been rescheduling for months now. So we finally got him on. Busy guy, very, very impressive person at Shopify, the partner growth architect at Shopify with Dwayne. I think it probably under highlights your expertise in B2B and enterprise and the work that you do in B2B as the title. So maybe just give like the background there for
Sure. Thanks for the kind words, Isaiah. As you said, my name is Dwayne Doshier. I'm serving a role, partner growth architect here at Shopify and our enterprise technology partner team. I serve in a team that identifies, recruits, enables, and scales some of our largest, most strategic ISV partners that could take the form of Google Cloud, Oracle, Manhattan, or our more traditional, longtime investment partners such as Klaviyo. I also directly support our largest global systems integrators, such as Accenture and EY and Deloitte, Cognizant, among others. And because of my agency background, I also support many of our large global agencies, but also our agencies such as Trellis and Zaelab that show just tremendous promise in the ecosystem. Briefly about my background, I have about 25 years in consulting. I'm an engineer by education, but really started my career in consulting about the time that Ernst & Young was selling its consulting practice to Capgemini in the late 90s.
Oh
Hmm.
wow.
Yeah, and so I've had time at
It's a
Ernst
small
&
world.
Young.
And then a bunch of
Yeah,
our, B2B commerce competitors got acquired by Capgemini.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think even some of those people is how we actually got connected to Zaelab. So
yeah, yeah. And so from in my journey, starting at around Ernst & Young, then Capgemini, Ernst & Young, later Capgemini, I was serving in a strategy practice that focused primarily on technology, media, and entertainment. After leaving Capgemini, I served a small leading B2B agency in Chicago. And then my career really had the hockey stick moment in 2011, 2012 as I joined Acuity Group. Acuity Group was the largest independent agency in the country at the time. At the time I joined, were probably 600 people. And by the time we IPO'd and eventually were acquired by Accenture in 2013, we were well over 750 people. I really looked at that as a really transformative and meaningful time for me because we were doing Hybris before it was bought by SAP. We
Mm.
were doing what now is Adobe Experience Manager when it was known as DayCQ. We were, just really helping the early digital leaders in manufacturing distribution transform their businesses. Acuity Group implemented e-commerce for Granger, and we were in the same building in downtown Chicago. But my clients also looked like Apex Tool Group and Airdas and other, top 10 type of distributors. After my time at Acuity Group and Accenture, where I just learned from the best, I went to a company called Insite, and Insite was a leader in the Forrester Wave before they were bought by Optimizely,
Hmm.
and learned quite a bit there from what I would consider to be mid-market, but absolutely all-in manufacturers and distributors on commerce. Brady Corporation, Morsco.
When you
Shout
were
out.
there, sorry to interrupt, when you were
Yeah,
there with
yeah.
Insight, because I see on your LinkedIn it says Optimizely, but I think
It,
it was Insight
it,
back then.
it does say Optimizely because Optimizely purchased Insight primarily for the B2B commerce capabilities. And this was before Optimizely rebranded to Optimizely. I
But
was
you were
not
there.
there. I was not there at the time of the acquisition. I had by that time already moved on, and I believe I was at that point at Avianos, which was
Mm.
founded by many of the people from Acuity Group. And while my time at Avianos was short, I transitioned to Gorilla Group in Chicago, which was also an acquisition later on by Wunderman Thompson and WPP. But my time at Gorilla Group, I was leading their strategy capability and strategy offering, and was really about my big part of my role was the types of wedge offers that many manufacturers and distributors needed to get started. That could look like boardroom business cases. It could look like PIM. It could look like the effective roadmap for transformation. The time at Gorilla was just fantastic too because we were a multiple time partner of the year to Adobe. We wrote a large part of Adobe Magento M2. We were also really involved with putting in place many of the first reference storefronts using Adobe Experience Manager over Magento. And so across that 15-year journey, yeah, I think it's pretty evident that I just was really blessed to be a part of leading distributors and manufacturers choosing to invest in commerce in the early days and being part of their journey. And I consider myself both blessed and grateful to have many of those clients in my Rolodex, trading phone calls, trading Christmas cards, seeing each other at shows, but also showing up in each other's personal lives. So
I just have to interject too. I mean, because in that era, I was working with a company called Prefer Network and then later CMS Direct, which was acquired by Merkle. And
yeah,
we were coming over. I was in the building going to see people at Granger. I was in
yeah.
the building going to see people at Gorilla. I probably passed by your cubicle. It's
Yeah,
really,
we again, I think we all run in circles. So again, if I can, I'm going to shout out to the team at Acuity Group, of
yeah,
course the founders, Chris Dalton and Schmeltz and Weinruth, but also the guys at Avianos as well. And then Brian Grady at Gorilla was just
yeah.
such a powerful personality, and what he did, taking a small upstart agency and becoming a multiple time Adobe Partner of the Year, winning an SAP Pinnacle Award when that was just the very rare air, and providing great opportunities. I can't say enough about my gratitude for all of that.
We
Which
have
leads to Shopify, right? So at Shopify,
And Shopify.
yeah, Shopify, it's very clear. I think it's very clear to people that Shopify will continue to be entrepreneur focused. We have a platform that allows anybody with an idea to start a legit business in minutes. And we are not going to move away from that. That is Toby's focus. That's our founder focus, and it's about making commerce better for everybody, and that starts with the individual. But it's clear that we're moving into the enterprise, You see that in our product. You see that in how analysts from Forrester and even this week from Gartner are talking about Shopify. But a big part of that move to the enterprise as well is with really experienced people, and that I'm part of that team. Where in my case, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, in the enterprise, it was very easy to not consider Shopify, right? And as I'm out there talking about Hybris or Magento, I was rarely, if ever, talking about Shopify. And if it was a conversation, it was maybe a 5-minute conversation. Whereas now we have a product in my view, is enterprise ready when I judge it against what I used to do and with Magento or Hybris or complex, Deca over Hybris or Sitecore over Hybris type of situations. But we also just really recruited a fantastic team of sellers that really, have empathy for the enterprise and are experienced at helping enterprises navigate procurement and all the different choice points. People like myself who have this real understanding, I like to think, of B2B commerce in all of its forms, direct, through dealers, sell through, sell to, marketplace, emerging type of technologies like order ingestion. But I also bring the 25 years of experience across consulting and agency life that allows me to understand the go-to-market models and the estimation and delivery needs of our partners, as well as really understanding it for the people purchasing our software. And I'm just one of hundreds of people like that Shopify has been able to recruit and put in positions to help our emerging enterprise base really make the most of Shopify. So I've said a lot there we could unpack about experience or Shopify, but I think the key takeaway is that I really look at Shopify as a rocket ship, and most people also look at it as a rocket ship. I think our financial results, the types of logos that are choosing Shopify in all segments, I think are evidence of that. And I'm here in large part because I can provide some of the things I just talked about, but I've also been on a couple of these rocket ships in the past. Acuity Group being one of them, Gorilla being another, and I know how exciting it can be to have a seat on the rocket ship, much less be able to drive a bit of it. And at Shopify, we empower our people, we empower our merchants to drive the rocket ship, and I really like that.
So I think Shopify has obviously been on like a rocket ship trajectory for a long time, but it seems like this B2B side of Shopify is still relatively new, and it sounds like it's obviously a critical piece to the enterprise. I'd love to just like hear your thoughts on that. And when we started this podcast, even frankly, we didn't talk about Shopify that much because it was like the Magentos or Adobes and
Yep.
other platforms 5 years ago that were more B2B focused. That's changed. We've had a lot more Shopify conversations on the podcast in the last probably, what would you say, maybe year and a half, Tim?
Probably a year and a half or so. I think the beginning of last year is when it really started to turn, at least
Yeah.
from our perspective, and people would just bring it up and say, "I'm considering Shopify."
Yeah.
And I think before that, we had to, if I were in the room and I were consulting with a B2B client, I'd have to say, "Have you considered Shopify?" Right? That was, I think, the turning point, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. Like
What would you like to
maybe
explore?
maybe it was you. You started
Ah,
December.
it was you. It was you. No, I guess the way I would kind of zero in on this, just for our listeners, is to really talk about Shopify and the environment that it's in now for B2B. Like B2C, everyone's been thinking about it forever. B2B, they've been thinking about it for a much shorter time frame. What are people thinking about? Like when I'm in that room, and I'm having those conversations as a brand or whatever I'm up to. What kind of conversations are people having where they're considering Shopify now, right? Why is that? And why should they be doing that?
Yeah, there's probably a couple pieces we could explore. Why are people considering Shopify, and then potentially why are people pausing and not making that choice? And I'd be happy to discuss both.
Yeah.
I think when people choose Shopify overall across any segment, it's about our ease of use. It's about our flexibility. And as I said a few minutes ago, it's very, very easy for an entrepreneur with an idea to start a Shopify site and be in business in 30 minutes. And that same type of ease carries over to all of our segments, whether that's more large accounts, truly enterprise accounts, global enterprise accounts with multiple business units and multiple P&Ls. Of course, the enterprises are more risk averse, and they want to really control and constrain for risk. And so when you hear about ease and flexibility, people sometimes are concerned about the Wild West. But ultimately, people, I think brands across all segments are choosing us for our ability to provide flexible experiences where we can provide these really engaging experiences at the storefront level, or at the point of sale in a physical store. I think as they really lean into how easy it is to use, the question then becomes, well, how much does it cost? And our cost of ownership comparisons against more traditional providers are just tremendous. And we put this in place at shopify.com/compare, where people or merchants of all sizes are considering us can go to our website and just see straight up comparisons of feature sets and cost of ownership. And cost of ownership is just one aspect of it, but that quickly then pivots to a growth conversation. Shopify, even as an employee of Shopify, almost every day, I learned of new capability sets, new features that are exclusive to Shopify that not only come with our Shopify plans, so they're included in our licensing, but they can really drive growth. And we provide a variety of models that can. One of our features is called Collective, and it allows merchants who are using Shopify and Shopify payments to sell their products in a drop ship model with any other Shopify merchant that is using Shopify and Shopify payments. So this really opens up this fabric, let's say, for a distributor who's using Shopify and has a B2C model with payments in place to source products from a wide variety of manufacturers and drop ship, sell them through their site. And that can really open up a whole entirely new revenue stream for a manufacturer or distributor without having to fully embrace the more traditional marketplace model. That's just one example of an ROI driving feature. So TCO plus ROI, it becomes pretty significant.
Can I just ask, there's a lot there to unpack.
Yeah.
That dropship model feature, I think it's still relatively new, and I think it's actually underutilized. Like I think it's one of those like hidden gems that people don't really think about. But right, you can tap into the entire network of Shopify products, correct? Is that
You,
uh
well, you can tap into other Shopify merchants who are also using the collective product.
yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And,
Yeah.
and as most things with Shopify, there are qualifications to use some of our products, so it doesn't become the Wild West. Most merchants who are using Collective and are enabled on Collective do have a minimum trailing GMV that they produce. So that typically means that you're a more successful merchant.
There's some
There's
infrastructure there.
opt-in on both sides kind
Yeah.
of thing.
There's
Yeah.
infrastructure there. You're not
Yeah.
dropping off some tiny little, yeah, it makes sense that they're
Yeah, and the infrastructure. Let's talk on that. Let's talk on that for a second, because I think that also answers the point around why some merchants are choosing Shopify. Is that unlike some of our competitors or historic, let's say competitive solutions, we do not build one-off solutions. When we build a feature and release it publicly, it is available to all merchants at all times. And so I sometimes, I'm in conversations with CIOs, and they ask questions about the scalability of Shopify. And that's my opportunity to really educate that when we release a product that's used by one of our very high GMV merchants, like Gymshark or Bombas or Allbirds, the performance that or Supreme brand. Supreme, we can support up to 40,000 checkout starts per hour with Supreme. Maybe it's
because
per
of their
minute.
drops or whatever. They have like the crazy drops.
Yeah, when we do flash sales, we can support tens of thousands of checkout starts in a very short amount of time. That
Wow.
same type of scale is available to all of our merchants. And so if you're a CIO at a manufacturer or distributor, it is very unlikely that you have the transaction volume that some of our large merchants with flash sales do.
I agree.
And And so our scalability for those merchants also applies to you as a manufacturer distributor. And I find that to be that really a lot of times ends the conversation around scalability, right? And so that's again when I think about our readiness for the enterprise, it's that sort of insider information that we really need to take to the market and be educating people on that we are building, for long term over many years. When a feature becomes available on checkout or something on the storefront or an integration, it's been thoroughly tested, typically vetted in private releases with some of our largest merchants. And then when we bring that to a general availability release, it is rock solid. And
Tell us,
that's very different than maybe perhaps buying a former competitive solution where there's a product gap and you paid a significant amount of money to professional services team from a software provider to build a
yeah,
one-off.
yeah.
So and you may not have the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway because I find this interesting. I mean, Shopify, given the size of the business, like what sort of percent of B2B does Shopify have at this stage, and what percent will they have? Like, right, like all the people who are out there looking for a solution or already have one. Like, where are you in that arc, right? That's kind of a big question, but I'm just trying to get a handle on that compared to anybody who's
Yeah, in
already.
terms of the percentage of revenue or orders, I would probably refer you back to our analyst earnings call early this
Sure.
week. I think we did, I think Jeff, our CFO, did talk a bit about the segment breakdown
Yep.
of what we're doing. I can share with you that in terms of right now on this date, November 15th, 2024, our adoption of B2B on a year-over-year basis is well over 100%. We're growing at 100% year over year. That's across all segments. You can also see, and you have seen in the last year,
Mhm.
large announcements from brands such as Carrier choosing Shopify.
Sure.
Uh, I'm confident that as we move forward over the next year, you'll see brands of that size and larger in B2B choosing Shopify in very public ways.
But
So
let's
it's
let's
pretty high.
talk about some of those features, right? We got into the collections and some of those kind of general features, but I think a lot of people still don't realize that Shopify Plus out of the box has company accounts, has price lists. I mean, I talk to people all the time. Sometimes I talk to people that have Shopify and don't even know this. And they're like, I mean, I literally have worked on distributor accounts where we're re-architecting it around company accounts because they built it before company accounts existed. And so they hacked it to do that. And it's like not great. But now obviously the new standard functionality works great, and so we're refactoring to that. I think there's still just an education gap there around Shopify B2B functionality, and then I'm gonna follow that up with another question. So we've built obviously at Zaelab, and Trellis now, a Zaelab company, is has a product called Portal, which is an even additional, I would say, enterprise layer on top of Shopify B2B. So I just want to kind of progress the conversation around the feature set there. And I
Sure.
know tons of stuff coming out. So there's a lot there. And I think just most people don't know much about it, you know?
Yeah, well, first I'll say that Shopify overall, when customers buy Shopify, they buy all of Shopify. So in the past, Shopify Plus looked like a feature set, but I think as you see us go to market more and more, you're just going to see more about Shopify plans, and there's maybe more of the get started basic plan that I described for single person entrepreneurs. Plus is more of a plan akin to a cell phone plan with it has a different price point. It does have some different capabilities regarding data throughput, B2B features, and then we have an enterprise plan that's really well suited for our enterprise customers. And it's again not so much about features as it is about service level agreements, some
Mhm.
professional services, consulting support hours, additional throughputs of our APIs. But I just want to take a minute to reinforce that when a merchant buys Shopify, they buy all of Shopify. They just maybe buy it on a different plan level. And that's somewhat of a new motion for us. In terms of B2B,
Sorry,
actually,
do you mind if I want to
yeah,
unpack?
yeah, unpack that. We'll get to the features in a
Is
second.
there there's a certain plan, let's call it Plus, that's when that unlocks some of those core B2B features, correct?
Yes,
Like
that's correct.
company
Yeah.
accounts, and then enterprise obviously I assume has that as well.
That's correct.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And
Do you
some
think
and some
that's
merchants that don't need specific features, they are also using plus plans because there's some data throughputs, API throughputs, some access to support type of pieces, just like you would see with a phone plan or a car maintenance plan or
yeah.
some of those things. Now, in terms of feature sets around B2B, again, I touched on earlier that 5 years ago it was a different conversation in the B2B boardroom around Shopify versus perhaps competitive solutions because Shopify was not feature rich.
Mhm.
I think that's a fair statement for me at Shopify. The analyst communities and third-party communities would also say that, but that gap is quickly reducing, if not already, eliminated. And so we do provide out-of-the-box capability to support complex account structures, multiple catalogs, for an individual customer, complex pricing. Kind of the list goes on and on. And from a feature set perspective, most recently, the most recent Forrester Wave for B2B, we're a leader in that. We went from not being in the wave in any previous release to being a leader on our first try, which is really rare air and quite frankly unheard of. And they talk quite a bit about our feature set readiness. Also, because we're architecting this to such a way, you touched on Portal, we're architecting in a way that where we do perhaps not have a native feature, we allow our platform to be extended by partners such as yourself to fill what might be called gaps, right? And if because we are building for very scaled solutions, we have a roadmap that's constantly prioritized based on market need and dynamic. And so, given the very limited capacity any company has, some things are just down the road in the roadmap. But we allow partners such as yourself, not allow, but really enable and encourage partners such as
Yeah.
yourself to build solutions around that.
I mean, I think that's one of the most powerful things about Shopify is just, we can get into that as well, Tim. One of the reasons we've uh, gone so far with Shopify, we started as a Magento agency back in the day. We picked up Shopify in 2015 and then actually merged with a Shopify exclusive agency in 2018 called Gross Park. And I think that probably the one of the leading drivers of Shopify is just the massive app ecosystem, community support, theme marketplace. I'll put a little shout out to us. We actually have our pretty solid open source theme. It's basically, I like to say, a better Tailwind, or sorry, a better Dawn theme with
Mm, mm.
basically embedded Tailwind CSS, a little bit more modern, but that's completely free. You go to the GitHub, Trellis Commerce, anyone can use it, anyone can fork it. But like that community is massive, and that community, you're not going to get that with an SAP Hybris or even like a Salesforce, where probably you're going to end up having to build most of these things custom, right? These gaps, like most of the gaps in those ecosystems end up being these really expensive, $300 an hour professional services kind of stuff, right? Would you say that's a fair statement or
Yeah, I think that's incredibly fair. Again, coming from some of the competitive ecosystems, as I described during my introduction, their app ecosystems were lightweight at best. It was very hard for app developers to be a part of that ecosystem. Very, very difficult for them to rise to the top, to the most endorsed or preferred solution. And here at Shopify, it's radically different. We have 8 to 10,000 app partners. Of course, some of those are going to be very, very high quality. Some, need to improve their quality. But we also have really a tiered system in place where we have this broad base of app partners that are bringing their industry expertise, their craft expertise at software development to build apps that are really meaningful for certain roles or certain business applications. We also have a more elevated tier that formerly was called Plus Certified App Program. It will be called Built for Shopify going forward. And that's really a tier of apps that's maybe about 200 apps. And these are built typically as first-party apps by some of the largest software companies in the world. And they build in cooperation with Shopify, where product developers on both sides are building a really hardened app that stands up to rigorous security scrutiny. These app providers in the Plus certified tier typically also provide 24/7 support. They're highly committed to staying up to date on versions with us. So many of them rapidly transitioned from REST to GraphQL in the last year, for example. And then my team is really creating that enterprise tier that I wouldn't say sits above that, perhaps, but perhaps sits to the side. Because if you're an Oracle, you may not want to have an app integration. You might want to do some other sort of integration. But the point of all that is to describe that we do have a very rich app ecosystem. We kind of have an app for everything. And like any app ecosystem,
Well, it really is true though. They're almost anything you think if there is an app, maybe not all of them are the plus ready level, but pretty much almost anything you can think of, there's probably something.
there is,
So,
and I'm excited too because there is an app for anything, and because we are really focused on build it once, extend it anywhere. It allows manufacturers and distributors to build their own custom apps specific to their needs. So this could potentially look like a manufacturer building a app for their field sales force to do some sort of quoting or to do some sort of on-site job site inspection. It could look like a distribution app to do some sort of something within the field with order status or again with job site. So we have this just rich capability to build apps, and I'm in conversations, all the time with very discerning large global Fortune 500 B2B companies around, well,
so
could we build an app for this unique use case, but that's their differentiation, it's their
Yeah, smart.
competitive edge.
So,
Yeah,
so
it's so
given
powerful.
what you just said about, sort of this, I'll use that specific phrase, unique use case, and the ability for Shopify to work with, a very, very wide range of people. Are there any businesses or are there types of businesses that Shopify doesn't want to work with in B2B? I mean, is there a category you're staying away from or some type of functions or, things that you don't
Yeah.
want to go into?
Yeah, that's a great question. So broadly, and what I'm saying is not a legal statement from Shopify,
Uh,
but broadly, we do business with others who are doing legal business in their locale. So if
Sure.
a product is legal to be sold in a specific locale and Shopify is doing business in that locale, broadly, we support the sale of that product. Now, there, of course, in regulated industries, that can become more difficult, right? And so if you're thinking about dangerous products such as firearms or explosives, we'd want to have a conversation about that. Medical goods, where there's HIPAA, compliance involved, we'd want to have a conversation about that because our hosting is not HIPAA compliant
Mhm.
at this time. So it's a bit case by case, but we are deeply involved with food and beverage, including regulated beverages such as alcohol.
Yep.
We can support, rapidly deregulating or changing industries where legal is changing, including cannabis.
Mhm.
We, are all the time, working with locales, government regulators around how to stay abreast of changes so that we can support our merchants at the moment of change. And so the categories are somewhat limited. And then I'll also share that depending on how payments are made, that can also affect the what we can support. And so because we use Stripe as our payment provider, Stripe also has some restricted capabilities. But overall, we welcome challenging conversations about business models, use cases, regulatory environments, and we want to lean in on
Now,
that.
and then, for our listeners who may have heard some of this before, I've worked with a lot of businesses actually that have been in those categories, and many of them are using Shopify. So I've worked with
Good.
people, alcoholic beverages and cannabis and, a whole variety of things that, you guys have been able to take care of. I mean, one other question
Yeah.
related to this, though, is there a business that maybe would outgrow Shopify? I mean, that may have been the case, I think, some years ago, where people would say, oh, I'm too big now. I need to go to X, Y, and Z. But what would cause something like that to happen, or would it happen today?
Well, I've not seen that happen here. Again, when I think about the scalability of our checkout solution, when I think about the scalability of our hosting, our infrastructure is run on Google Cloud, and we're a top Google Cloud customer. So we have pretty near infinite scalability with that. I think about the partnerships that we have with the largest SaaS companies and hyperscalers, Oracle and Google. My sense is that it'd be really, really hard to outgrow the ability of an Oracle or a Google as a partner. I will say that, I've historically over the last 20 years been in a lot of build versus buy conversations.
Mhm.
And many times it almost feels like, am I in this conversation again? Like my sense is there are some businesses where the build versus buy conversation is quite legit. If
Mhm.
you are
You're a tech company, right? You're a tech
well,
company,
a tech company, I also actually think more about like grocery locations. If you're a
Mhm.
top five US grocery store
Sure.
brand, you might have the reason to build an entire custom system because you have
It's a little
really complex
complicated.
store experiences, payment
Yeah.
experiences, all the things. If you are a highly regulated global manufacturer distributor that's building multiple diverse products, cars to batteries to consumer goods, there might be a conversation there about why you need to do that. Clearly, the top big box retailers in America have all built their own systems, from scratch, and they're highly protective of their checkouts. And
Mhm.
that's a conversation that we're
It's a
in with
pretty
many.
rare air type of business, though, right? You're
It
talking
is
the
pretty.
Home Depots, you know,
Target,
the
Walmart.
Target, Walmart, right? And
Right.
so, yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
But without regard to any of those
Even
specific,
Staples Canada is on Shopify.
yeah, yeah. Without regard to any of those specific names, I can say that that cohort or that archetype in both direct to consumer and B2B is in constant conversation with
Yeah.
Shopify about everything from how do we get started with Shopify, from proof of concepts to larger parts of entire business units to potentially the entire enterprise. And again, we welcome those types of conversations. The more difficult the B2B use case, configure price quote, selling through distributors with some returns in play. Like I want that conversation, and I'd encourage
Yeah.
your listeners to reach out.
Um, I wanted to give a quick shout out while you brought up custom apps because we built a bajillion custom apps over the years for Shopify for like generally one-off use cases for a specific customer, specific business need or integration or something that's maybe not on the marketplace. But a product that we've been in the early stages of using that's really amazing from my perspective, and I hope they really continue to grow. You might know them, Dwayne, is gadget.dev. They're actually
Mm.
former Shopify people. They built kind of it's almost like a Vercel. I guess trying to think of
Oh,
like a Vercel for Shopify apps is how I would kind of describe it. And, I'm not going to name names, but we're pretty deep in conversations with a pretty sizable SaaS company building an MVP app for them on Gadget, and we were able to prove out an MVP in days with Gadget.
mm.
And that normally would have taken weeks or months. And just a little shameless promo for Gadget.dev. And if you want help with it, Trellis and Zaelab are happy to help you guys with the service.
That's great.
But
Yeah, I love that. I've not heard of Gadget, but that's probably just where my own ignorance and exposure more than anything else. But I love this kind of conversation that introduces me to new companies, trying to go big in Shopify. So
they
I'll take an
have former Shopify employees, so definitely if you want an intro there, really impressive company. One of the few like tech that I saw like their demo, and I was like, wow, it almost seemed too good to be true.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate that all the time. Yeah, well, you also, speaking of apps, you want to talk a little bit about the Zaelab and Trellis portal?
Yeah, yeah.
Let's do it.
It's still new, it's still early, but it's really unique. I don't think there's anything like it in the market. It was one of the things that really gravitated me towards Evan's vision as the founder and CEO of Zaelab. History there is, he had started the concept of Portal way back, I think going back to his SAP Hybris roots. And then I think really saw a fit with Shopify, extending Shopify B2B, probably, what I would consider best in class quoting functionality for request to quote. So yeah, I mean, I think the short of it is it's a pretty exciting kind of extension. I'd say I would kind of call it an enterprise extension of Shopify B2B without, overriding core Shopify. And that's a big thing that I care a lot about when I make sure we architect anything is that when we build something on top of a solution like Shopify or really anything, doesn't matter. I always want to make sure we're not, you know, building too far away from the core underlying product that we're working with.
So lay out for me a little bit more about what I get with Portal. Let's say that I am
Yeah.
a very happy B2B
I'm,
person with
I'm,
Shopify and I don't know
I'm,
about Portal.
I'm gonna preface this. I'm still very new
Sure.
to this, so I still have a lot of learning to do myself. But I mean, we for pretty low price now, we could stand up like a ready to go B2B portal with quoting, with even basically an additional layer of capabilities on top of the Shopify B2B accounts. Just kind of that sales enablement functionality for sales reps. Like imagine, let's say you're a manufacturer. Let me give you a bit more of a use case. And I don't know, you make refrigerators. Help me out here, Dwayne.
I
I'm
love it. I love it. I love it. Well,
scenario.
I'm ready.
Let's go with LG refrigerator. I was just actually shopping for refrigerators. I don't think I'm gonna pull the trigger because our refrigerator's not that bad, but I was
Ah,
tempted. I was very tempted to buy the new LG Black Friday deal. But let's say you're the LG refrigerator division and you sell refrigerators, right? LG has to sell, they're not really selling most of those refrigerators direct. They're selling them to Home Depot, to whatever, right?
yeah,
And so in a very short period of time for a reasonable amount of money with Shopify plus Portal, we can build you, an LG refrigerator buying experience for LG to sell to their distributors and retailers
sure.
in a very kind of enterprise level kind of B2B buying experience. Dwayne, would you think that's a fair kind of like high level use case example?
It is. Let me restate it. And I'll just share first to say that I'm exposed to your portal solution all the time. It is very, very compelling for me, and I'm saying that judged against my B2B experience and the competitive products I described earlier. I am really excited about Zaelab's portal solution overall for our manufacturers and distributors. But I'm also excited that it serves as the archetype of what other agencies could do, what other GSIs could do. I'm also very, very excited because it can attach many of our strategic ISV partners. So when I think about Portal, I think about it as being a modern B2B experience. It's built as a Shopify app, which means
Yes.
it's not like a mobile app on your phone. What Shopify app means is that it's deeply integrated to our
It's fully
product.
multi-tenant. It's fully
Yeah,
multi-tenant. Yeah.
yeah, and so this modern B2B experience is built on Shopify's B2B primitives, which are relatively new compared to our B2C software primitives. It extends our primitives, it extends our APIs. It really starts to unify the commerce experience for manufacturers and distributors in that it can bring together role-based storefront experiences that could take the form of a more classic distributor portal. It
Mhm.
can unify configure price quote. You can unify EDI and punch out and order ingestion. And it is incredibly well integrated to the types of ERPs you would see in
Yes.
manufacturing distribution, Acumatica, Microsoft Dynamics, SAP. And when we are in the market together, Shopify and Zaelab, and we show the portal to our joint prospects, it really gets people's attention around what can be built on Shopify and the types of accelerators that leading agencies like Zaelab and Trellis bring. And so, at risk of all that sounding too overselling it, and I might be, it's because I am that excited about it. I'm
No, it
looking
really
at,
is amazing. Yeah, it really is.
yeah,
I'd be saying that if I didn't believe in that. And I
yeah,
want to add to your point about the underlying architecture around integration, Tim.
Yep.
There's a really strong integration layer. So, probably one of the hardest, most annoying features to build for my career in B2B, pretty much my whole career, is real-time pricing and real-time data pull from the ERP. And it's really well designed to be able to pull in, company-specific pricing, things that can be a real nightmare to do from an ERP integration standpoint. It has a really strong integration layer around that. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I agree
Yeah,
with
it's an early preview in many, and it's an early preview in many ways of what I would expect, making no promises on behalf of Shopify's roadmap, but it really delivers, I think, where you could expect to see our roadmap go in terms of we have robust account management right now, but Zaelab has extended that to even, provide even more nuanced and differentiated experiences about bill to, sold to, ship to combinations, for
Yeah.
example. Or many people know Shopify as you come to a Shopify site and you see a really product-focused presentation. We can still do that, but the Zaelab portal experience provides that more classic portal experience that you might expect, where it's perhaps less buying focused when you log in and it's more account focused. What's the status of the orders in my
Yeah.
account? What's a specific KPI around potentially around fill rate in beverages?
Mhm.
What is some other type of compliance KPI? And again, because it's a portal experience, you would expect it to be a portal into the manufacturer or distributor world. And so I'm really excited about Zaelab's portal and some of its interactivity around interactive quote collaboration, where the B2B buyer can start the quote and submit that through portal to Shopify. And then there's some back and forth in terms of perhaps adjusting quantities or adjusting price. And then because the way Zaelab has designed the portal offering, it uses what a concept that Shopify calls draft orders, which is essentially an order submission for B2B that's not immediately attached to a payment the way you would see in B2C. And so Zaelab has done some fantastic work being able to submit that draft order and then round trip it, from the ERP back to the portal experience, and all the time while being really compliant to the types of protections that Shopify wants in our checkout and some of the processes that protect merchants from,
So,
disruptive order mechanics and things like that.
so if listeners are interested in finding out more about Portal, they should look at Zaelab, Zaelab.com. Is that
It's
where
on
they should?
the website. I'm actually doing a lot to revamp the marketing. It's still early stages, so you're going to see a lot more content, a lot more just B2B commerce information. But yes, there's a link right on the top menu but it brings you to portal.io. But it's portal Portul. So
Ah,
the A is a
thank you
U.
for thank you for
That's
that
very
because I would
important. Yeah,
never have
Portal
guessed
was a
that.
U. Portal.io is a website. It's very basic right now. It is on our roadmap to build that out into a much more comprehensive, informational website so you can learn a lot more about Portal. But yeah, to your point, Dwayne, the quoting stuff that they do is pretty amazing. Just to give you some perspective on how this vision came about. I mean, Evan, I won't name too much detail because I don't know what I'm technically allowed to say, but I mean, Evan's built, or they have built, and we have built now together, a one of their clients, portals, powers over 4 billion of transactions, Tim. So,
Pretty good.
you're thinking about like there's a level of scale and complexity and sales reps going in every day, like
Sure.
their job, like just this level of detail that they've dealt with some of these clients and that experience over, probably almost 15 years now, they brought that's where all this comes from. It's not, there's a lot of learning that they've had to go into this.
Yeah.
So
And I think all of this, the last few minutes of the conversation for me reinforces why I'm so excited about B2B at Shopify is that we have a world-class product that's only becoming better every day. We've architected it in such a way that both B2C merchants and B2B enterprise seller organizations can extend it in almost infinite ways. And then we have real rich set of partners such as Zaelab and Trellis who are also extending it to these role-based types of experiences. And then if that's not enough, there's this rich partner ecosystem of apps, but also more traditional ISV providers that can be attached to the portal solution. So as I think about my team and that we're recruiting these world-class, enterprise partners, one that I'm excited about that's a recent addition to our portfolio is Logic.io. Logic.io is a leading CPQ provider. They've had a rich and successful history in Salesforce ecosystem, and now they're an enterprise partner to Shopify. It just so happens that Zaelab is the number one implementing partner of
Yeah,
Logic.io. And
you
I'm
stole
really, and I'm really,
my
and I'm
thunder
really
there.
excited. Yeah, and I'm really excited about how all of this comes together and potentially, a B2B seller adopts Shopify with the Zaelab portal overlay as phase one. They have rapid success, rapid adoption, and the very next follow-on phase might be CPQ with Logic.io.
Mhm.
Potentially, it's order ingestion from other providers that are partnered with both Zaelab and
Or just
Shopify.
even email, right? We're looking
Or
at
even
AI
email.
solutions where we can ingest email purchase orders. There's so much. I mean, the whole
That's right.
AI thing. We might need a separate podcast. We're gonna run out of time
Let's
here.
have another. Yeah.
We can do that.
I want to change
Let's
gears a
do it.
little bit, Dwayne, since we're running out of time and we could probably keep going. We probably need you back in like I'd say let's 6 to 12 months. We're gonna have some probably really exciting things to talk about, probably even more tangible, use cases on the B2B side
Absolutely.
with you. But I want to give you a chance to, because we're really trying to educate the market, and maybe I'm a little bit biased here, but I really want to sound the alarm for. I still talk to distributors and manufacturers almost daily that I don't feel like are getting the sense of urgency and level of investment that I think they need to make in this digital future. And I just want to get your perspective on, you know, if you're a distributor or manufacturer, how important it is to really, even like at the executive level, at the CFO level, create a budget, a plan, be investing in these kind of things. Because I just don't think that you can, and Tim, we talk about this all the time. You can't
Yeah.
just be like, oh, I'm gonna, my sales reps are gonna keep selling, cold calling, and we have no digital marketing, and you have to call us to place your order, and when you go to the website, it barely works, and it takes 10 seconds to load, or it looks like it was built in 1999. Like, I just don't think that's gonna cut it much, kind of like we saw. I mean, I think you guys, sorry, this is long-winded. I think you guys played a big part of the retail apocalypse concept, which is Shopify was such an instrumental B2C tool that elevated companies' e-commerce quickly, and the ones that didn't do it, like what was it, Borders? You remember Borders, Tim?
Oh yeah, I remember
Borders?
Borders. Yeah.
Borders went out of business, right? The companies that didn't adapt in retail, a lot of them went out of business or flailing because they didn't adapt to e-commerce. And I feel like that time is maybe now or coming in B2B. And I just want to get your perspective on that as a bit of a wake-up call to any distributor or manufacturer that's not quite taking this seriously. Um,
Well, as a strategist, I have had 20 years of conversations about what is a differentiator and what's a competitive advantage, and there's lots of opinions on that, but I really hold fast to the idea that experiences are the sustainable competitive advantage, and that if distributors and manufacturers can build really compelling experiences, those can be the competitive advantages that differentiate during value chain disruption. E.g., it can differentiate against Amazon white labeling your products and taking your business. These really those role specific, highly differentiated experiences can deliver sustained financial outcomes from customer engagement. And ultimately, if you have a belief that there's a value in brand loyalty can really be created with these individual experiences as well. So I don't believe that digital channels or digital touch points have to be a replacement to the field sales force. I actually think that digital channels should complement your field
I
sales
agree.
force,
I agree.
Yeah.
right?
I think we all
And
agree.
so I think a lot of manufacturers and distributors would do well to take a really critical look at, what's happening in their prospect base and their customer base, and really understand, do we have an opportunity to build differentiated experiences at different for different customer types? So for a distributor who sees a lot of drive-by quoting where people are price shopping to get three quotes and they always were going to buy from somebody else anyway, build a differentiated experience that presents quotes, but without having any touches of your inside sales
Mhm.
desk.
Mhm.
Or if you think that you can really generate revenue from drive-by sales of earplugs, which is, what Granger and Airgas did in their early in their stages, build these differentiated experiences that allow for, sale of earplugs, but make sure that it's profitable at the line level, the order level, the account level, and make it again be really simple to do that.
Yep.
Then understand that you probably have some customers that want both. They want high touch interaction from your field sales or inside sales, and sometimes they want no touch digital interaction. But even for your top five customers, I would encourage manufacturers and distributors to really think hard about who are our 10 most profitable customers. And could we get into conversations with them about what highly differentiated role-based experiences do that where both sides can invest in a digital experience that is also paired with white glove onboarding, white glove QBRs to drive adoption, and ultimately, if those top 10 are co-partnering to develop these highly differentiated solutions at really low risk of ever churning away, manufacturers and distributors can build world-class solutions that then they could push down to other
Yeah.
segments.
Enable your top clients, make them happier, build something specialized for them,
Correct.
and roll it out.
Correct.
Maybe roll out a lighter experience for the smaller.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, the big takeaway, I think, from my 20 years in commerce, especially early on in the monolith and custom era, is that manufacturers and distributors, they selected, top e-commerce platforms and then overbuilt on them to provide every supposed, solution for every claimed segment. And then most of that went unused. And so now, as manufacturers and distributors are thinking about replatforming or thinking about getting into commerce for the first time, they have a real opportunity to narrowly focus on building the experiences that matter, driving adoption on those experiences, learning from that, and then start picking off the edge cases. But in my view, if you have a 500,000 SKU catalog, there's probably 5,000 SKUs that are really driving
Yep.
revenue and profit.
The
So let's
80/20 or
bump that.
90/10, yeah, the 80/20 rule, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Or in some cases, I'm actually talking about the 1% rule. Again, get your top 10 most loyal, most profitable customers that aren't going to churn from you and are going to give you brutal, vicious feedback on your commerce program and partner with them to build the world-class solution. And then this is how, in my view, this is how the distributors in, the industrial distribution Big 50 list have won, right? Not everybody can be Granger and Fastenal, right? But those kind of the Morse codes of the world 2 or 3 years ago, the fleet prides of the world right now in automotive, these are not always Shopify logos, but they have really, really, I mean, doubled and tripled down on what
I
I've
have one
described.
on that list that Dwayne, maybe we can talk to because I'm not going to name names, but they're
Yeah,
on one of your former companies, and
yeah,
uh, I think they could benefit from a conversation with you.
Well,
yeah,
I think one of the big takeaways for me from what you said, and believe me, I agree with, 100% of it, is that I think a lot of the folks that I've been in the room with in recent times, they're benefiting the most from bringing in those top, clients, those top customers of theirs, and just getting all of that out on the table, the brutal honesty about what those folks really want and what they want, high touch and what they want no touch and what they want somewhere in between. And once you have that kind of laid out, it becomes much clearer what your focus is going to be. It becomes much easier to say, okay, here's the plan for 2025. It's not as like mysterious anymore. You don't need a
yeah.
crystal.
Yeah, and for your listeners, again, if it's not obvious to this, I want to have these conversations with your listeners. Shopify wants to have these conversations with
Mhm.
your listeners. And that's true not only if you're a Shopify merchant and enterprise already, but for those who are skeptical of us. I'd really welcome the conversations around what is your unique situation? Why are you skeptical? Can we work through that? My commitment is that Shopify will show up prepared, will show up with, highly opinionated solutions, but we'll also show up with a real degree of honesty. We are not all things to all people, all things to all enterprises. So we'd like to work through, is our solution a fit? If not now, what conditions would need to be true on Shopify's side, on the merchant side, the enterprise side, or something else to make that true? And that's a big part of my role, whether it's with agencies like yourself or our GSI partners or just with Shopify in general, is to be having these sorts of exploratory conversations. We as Shopify look at feedback is a gift. That's a big part of our culture is that feedback is a gift. And we want the skeptical feedback. And so I just encourage all of your listeners to reach out to you, reach out to me, and let's get into some conversations.
I think that's a good place for us to wrap. Isaiah, any last words?
No, I mean, this is amazing. I mean, I think we just have to have Dwayne back for sure. We're gonna try and get, it's been a little crazy for me, probably not surprising, but a big focus of mine is marketing and brand awareness, and the podcast's a big part of that. So I'm hoping to get back to consistent weekly episodes. I don't know, Tim,
Yes.
maybe even do twice a week. I don't know.
Woohoo!
Uh,
We're ready.
More weekly. I mean, we've lost some gaps, and we just want to get a lot of this information out there because, I mean, we've seen it help people. Like we've had people come to us. It's helped them figure out what to do. It's helped them make the case to their company to do something just by having these kind of you know, podcast with someone like you, 20 years experience, they maybe aren't getting those stories otherwise, right? It's hard to get this information, right? What do you do? There's not many places to get this information.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Well, I think if I would have the opportunity again, whether it be a panel with your team, a panel with prospects, my passion is B2B. Nothing makes me happier really. It's going to sound so silly, but like I want to help the paint manufacturer who's 150 years old sell their first can of paint online. And I might have
I
done that
love it.
already. I might have done that already in my career, right? But I want to do that for others as well. So folks who think we can't do this for this reason or our customers won't adopt it, I'm not here to say that you're wrong, but I'd like to really explore that with you because nothing makes me happier than sell that first can of paint, sell that first hammer, sell those first things with earplugs, and then when the manufacturer distributor receives that email from a customer that says, "Can't believe you haven't had this for 10 years." I want to celebrate that. I want to celebrate that feedback too of buyers like providing praise to the manufacturers and distributors. Shopify doesn't have to be at the forefront of that. It's all about the merchant, and I'd be honored to be in those conversations with people.
Thank you so much. It's
Yeah,
great to have you today, Dwayne.
this
absolutely.
was
Thanks again.
awesome.
We appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dwayne.